Local 5 is proud to present a special edition of Local 5 News at 6. A salute to veterans, honoring those who serve. This program is sponsored by Georgia Pacific, Holy Family Memorial Medical Center, Keller Incorporated, Kroll's West, Rennes Health and Rehab Center, R.R. Donnelly, Window World, Consolidated Construction, and WPS Health Insurance. And now, Tom Zaleski and Aaron Davison.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Aaron Davison.
And I'm Tom Zaleski. We thank you for joining us on this Veterans Day as we celebrate them and their service. Today is, of course, Veterans Day, where we stop and say thank you to those who have served and who continue to serve in the military.
Local 5's Paul Evenson brings us the sights and sounds of Outagamie County's Veterans Day ceremony.
Outagamie County continued its tradition of honoring those who have served both past and present by hosting a special event here at the county administration buildings in Appleton. There was plenty of patriotic music, a few prepared statements,
wars are won through strength, sacrifice, and determination,
and the playing of taps. As members of the community joined together to honor our men and women in uniform in a county known for its high number of veterans.
We're pretty unique because we have a very high concentration of veterans, almost 9%. Nationally, it's about 6.5%, 7%. So I think in that regard, this is extra special. It's extra special and extra important.
Keynote speaker Colonel Timothy Cody delivered a heartfelt and emotional address, letting those in attendance know this veteran is retired only by title.
One of the worst days of my life was having to retire. It really was. So to get this chance to be able to express my gratitude towards all those I served with and who served before me and led the way, you know, I just can't describe how important it is. From sea to shining sea, America, 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 America.
That was the sound of the Fox Valley Airs. The Appleton East High School Band also performed at today's ceremony.
And Green Bay also gathered to honor those who served at a special event at the Neville Public Museum.
For the 74th year, the United Patriotic Society brought together local officials and the community to pause and remember and praise our veterans in wars of the past and present.
We need to remember the service and the sacrifice that people have done that have brought us here, you know, that made this country what it is and, you know, how great it is.
That program was hosted by American Legion Post 11.
We now join the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 224, for a 7-rifle volley and taps in honor of this Veterans Day.
Present the colors. Firing detail. Attend hut. Port arms. Ready. Fire. Ready. Fire. Ready. Fire. Present arms. Order, arms.
And we thank the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 224, for that tribute this Veterans Day. Students at Oshkosh North High School spent this Veterans Day by giving back to those who served.
The program is called Sweat for a Vet, and it partnered with a program called Got Your Six Canines, who helps to educate the public on how service dogs help veterans throughout their life. Today's event helps raise awareness of those struggles.
I look back how grateful I am for my own personal service dog and the triumphs that we've done together. I mean, from being a veteran that was completely homebound, had a lot of communication barriers and issues, and that I still deal with today, but you know, with the help of my companion and service dog here, we've been able to overcome a lot of that.
And proceeds raised from that event will go toward the purchase of a service dog for a veteran in need.
One local veteran served with a prestigious division in the Army during the Vietnam War.
He saw plenty of combat. Although he wasn't wounded physically, the war did take a toll on his mental health.
Local 5's Nate Stewart caught up with Lloyd Dumke to hear more about his life as an infantryman.
These were awarded to me primarily in Vietnam.
Lloyd Dumke was drafted in the Army in 1969, and after basic training, he was sent to Louisiana for advanced infantry school. Then it was overseas to Vietnam.
While I was in Vietnam, I was a combat infantry soldier with the 101st Airborne Division.
The 22-year-old was responsible for assisting one of the men in his platoon with a machine gun by holding his ammo.
I was his protection along with helping him keep that gun going.
And for 4 months, they never left the jungle.
We were in the field, you slept in the field. There were no bunks, no cots, nothing.
The platoon was set along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, heavy populated with the NVA.
In a 10-day period, we lost over 80% of my platoon due to either being wounded or killed.
During that period, they came upon a booby-trapped LZ.
When the booby trap went off, it was a mortar round that was buried in the ground, and one of the people stepped on it.
Lloyd says he had somebody watching over him.
In between that mortar round and where I was standing was a large clump of bamboo that stopped all of the shrapnel. You'd be honest with you, I probably think about it every day.
Eventually, he was granted permission to re-enlist to get out of the field.
So I re-enlisted, became a clerk typist, doing morning reports for an aviation battalion.
Lloyd held that position for the rest of his time in Vietnam and came home after a year. His service would end after 2 years in Baltimore, Maryland.
I had applied for special duty at the Armed Forces Entrance and Examination Station. When I came home, I knew I was different, but I didn't know, I just thought it was just me.
Lloyd still struggles with PTSD, but is dealing with it by talking at local schools about his service. And despite the tragic scenarios, he came out strong.
I learned that you can do so much more than what the mind thinks it can.
In Appleton, Nate Stewart, Local 5 News.
Thank you, Nate. The De Pere Middle School kids recognized veterans this day by honoring them with an assembly.
40 veterans visited the school and spoke with students about their military service. Teachers say it is the best way for students to learn about the experience of war.
It's a sense for them to get living history. It's better than any TV show, any book, or any video you can watch. You get to hear stories from the people who actually were there and lived it.
De Pere Middle School has been hosting the Veterans Day event for 16 years.
A retired Air Force combat photographer is making her way around the country taking pictures of veterans.
Yeah, her name is Stacy Pearsall. She recently made a stop in Luxembourg for her Veterans Portraits project as a way to honor those who served. She says it's her way to give back since she no longer wears a uniform.
And here I am, 11 years later, over 8,000 veterans that I've met across the nation in my 48th state, Wisconsin, and nearing the finish line.
The collection represents millions of veterans throughout the United States.
Well, the crew from the USS Green Bay talk about their trip to Lambeau Field as they are honored for their service.
And people in the Fox Valley put together care packages for local veterans. Stay with us. Before we go to break, pictures of local veterans. Thank you for your service.
Well, Veterans Day isn't limited to civilians. Sometimes heroes that served continue to help those around them.
And at Aspire Senior Living in Kimberly, a good number of both put together care packages for homeless veterans in Northeast Wisconsin.
And our reporter John Dommel joining us now to tell us all about that. John?
Tom, Aaron, about 30 people, many of them veterans, spent time today filling bags just like this one with socks, blankets, toiletries, you name it. And for some of them, it really reinforced the bond that only exists in the service.
It really touched more to our hearts doing it where we can actually go outside and be a part of the community and help the homeless veterans that are around our area, and helping them keep warm and get something to eat and giving them health and beauty items that might help them along this winter.
This is the second year of Veterans Day care packages, and some of those filling the bags have been there before.
I enlisted when I was 17.
Really?
Right out of high school, 1945. it kind of excited me, you know, so it was something different.
The unifying pride he found in himself and the country acted as inspiration.
The old saying in the Marine Corps, once a Marine, always a Marine, you know, and that sticks with us. I think we see what some of these people went through, and they went through hell, you know.
It's a gesture of goodwill to our veterans, and it's never too late to say thank you.
When you get old, I guess you get a little sentimental, and it's just a little what we do for them, that's all. So it means a lot to me.
And Gene, the World War II veteran you just saw, said the most important part of all is to never repeat the treatment our veterans received coming home from Vietnam. They were reviled, and anytime we can give back goes a long way toward healing that black mark.
Absolutely. So true. All right. Thank you, John.
All right. Well, throughout the month of November, the NFL and players honor those who have served our country.
Coming up, a look at how two Packer players are honoring veterans day in and day out. Daniel Diebold served 3 tours overseas with the Army, 2 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan.
Working in the field artillery, he saw things that stuck with him even after his service ended.
Local 5's Nate Stewart caught up with Daniel in Green Bay to see how he went from battling addiction to helping others.
The insignia for artillery.
Daniel Diebold enlisted with the Army in 2004 and was excited about his options for what he wanted to do.
Looking at the descriptions of everything and stuff, I was like, you know what? Artillery might be the place to go. Because, I mean, you get to blow stuff up from far away. You know, sounds pretty neat.
He was deployed to Iraq in 2005, where they did force protection for a few months, then switched over to main supply route sweeping.
We were just driving up and down this big area, this strip of MSR Tampa, looking for IEDs.
After 13 months, he'd come home, but was deployed again in 2008 to Baghdad.
We did a lot of searching for people, looking for people and stuff like that. We had a system where we could track people down. We went and did that stuff.
Daniel was promoted to Ammo Team Chief as an E2.
I had to maintain all the information and accountability for all the ammo and stuff.
After another 13 months, he'd come back home and was promoted as an NCO.
NCO ribbon here.
In 2012, his third deployment would take him to Afghanistan, and during an MSR sweep, he noticed a suspicious vehicle.
I said, these guys are doing something. They got weapons. I could see weapons.
The van was next to a truck, and the van took off as Daniel and his team got closer.
They shot that truck up. We have no idea what it was about. There were 6 people in the vehicle, 5 of them died. The youngest one was a baby, and she lived. And seeing the bodies out there, it made me, you know, there's little kids, you know, and that really messed with me because, you know, I had a kid.
The images stuck with him when he came back home as he battled an addiction to alcohol.
I was having a hard time trying to get things set up, get things running, and my drinking was still an issue, you know.
And in 2015, his life took a turn for the worst.
I went down to this beach that I like to hang out at and watch the sunset and stuff, and I chose to try to chug a gallon of alcohol.
The next day, he was found unconscious.
My body temperature was 38 degrees. They said that hypothermia set in. I was actually partly in the water, had damage to my leg.
But he says after hitting rock bottom, it was only uphill from there.
I think the accident is what caused me to be more positive about things because of the position and disposition I was in.
He got help and gave up drinking, and now he gives back with the DAV. He was nominated to be the junior vice commander for Chapter 3 in Green Bay and asked to be the deputy sergeant in arms for the state.
That's what it's for, is to remember, honor the fallen by taking care of the ones that are still here, you know.
In Green Bay, Nate Stewart, Local 5 News.
Thank you, Nate. In Oshkosh, a Veterans Military Museum does more than honor those who served.
The Military Veterans Museum and Center is a nonprofit museum that collects and displays military artifacts like vehicles from World War II all the way to the Gulf War for the public to enjoy and, of course, to remember. The center is fully operated by volunteers who help to tell the stories of all the vehicles.
The mission of the museum is to honor our U.S. military history through education and preservation. To see the trucks, you can see them, you can see pictures of them, but to come down and talk to the people that drove them and hear the stories behind each of these vehicles is really the key.
That museum is located just down the road from EAA, and it's open Friday to Sunday, 10 a.m. till 5 p.m.
And we thank you for joining us this Veterans Day evening.
Stay with Local 5 as we continue to honor those who fought for our freedom. We're right back after this.
Local 5 is proud to present a special edition of Local 5 News at 6. A salute to veterans, honoring those who serve. This program is sponsored by Georgia Pacific, Holy Family Memorial Medical Center, Keller Incorporated, Kroll's West, Rennes Health and Rehab Center, R.R. Donnelly, Window World, Consolidated Construction, and WPS Health Insurance. And now, Tom Zalaski and Aaron Davison.
And welcome back. Thank you for joining us on this Veterans Day. Now, on this Veterans Day, people everywhere say thanks to those who have served in our nation's military.
And as Chris Schuler reports, in Green Bay, dignitaries gathered to honor our heroes.
Inside the Neville Public Museum in downtown Green Bay. Special gathering on this Veterans Day.
It's family. It's family. It truly is family.
A ceremony to honor all members of our nation's military.
Let us remember all our veterans who answered the call of duty, young and old, who fought for our freedom.
For the 74th year, the United Patriotic Society brought together local dignitaries to pause, remember, and praise our veterans for their courage and sacrifice in wars of the past, wars of the present.
The nation which forgets its defenders will be itself forgotten.
Very few people can say that they've done the things that veterans have done, taken the responsibility that veterans have taken on.
Veterans like Wes Michael.
We need to remember the service and the sacrifice that people have done that have brought us here, you know, that made this country what it is and, you know, how great it is.
Veterans like Kathy Landry.
Just acknowledge that we're here. That's so important. That feels good.
Because all veterans deserve our thanks on this day set aside to mark their courage for answering the nation's call of duty.
Let us pledge that we will never forget our veterans from past wars, present wars, and future wars. In His mighty name we pray. Amen.
Reporting in Green Bay, Chris Schuler, Local 5 News.
Thank you, Chris. The program was hosted by American Legion Post 11.
Now, Outagamie County held their annual Veterans event in the lobby of the administration building in Appleton.
Members of the community joined local officials in honoring those who have served both past and present. The event featured several guest speakers and patriotic music performed by the Appleton East High School Band and the Fox Valley Valiers. A heartfelt keynote address was delivered by retired Colonel Timothy Cody.
To get this chance to be able to express my gratitude towards all those I served with and who served before me and led the way, you know, I just can't describe how important it is.
Outagamie County has one of the highest number of veterans in the state.
Well, our hometown hero doesn't like to talk about his time in Vietnam, but he does like to talk about his volunteer efforts.
This Marine is passionate about helping fellow veterans. Local 5's Nate Stewart caught up with him in De Pere to learn more about why he loves giving back so much.
I just think that all veterans out there should join an organization.
And Leon Gazella knows the importance of that after his service with the Marines back in 1968.
I was with the 9th Marines, 3rd Division, Gulf Company 29.
Assigned as a machine gunner, he would be sent to Vietnam for 6 months after basic training.
Being over there is something I don't want to talk about because it was hard.
And to make things harder, he came down with malaria, and his time in the Marines was short-lived after 2 years.
But I wanted to go see the world, but you could see I didn't see much of it.
But he has been able to make an impact as a member of different veterans groups.
Started out as being a volunteer driver for the DAV to take veterans to clinics and to, mostly to Iron Mountain. I enjoyed just being with those people. I learned a lot.
Since then, he's also joined the VFW, the VVA, and the Marine Corps League, volunteering his free time to give back to others.
Actually, all 4 of them are the same. I don't do a lot with each one, but I help whenever I can to help raise money for all different things that we do. We don't realize how many people out there are homeless, people who need help, who are really down and out. This way we can help them out as much as we can.
Not only is he a member of all 4 groups, he's also part of the honor guard for each one.
It's not saying I like doing honors, but they deserve the honors. Because I think the people, when I do these funerals, they deserve that. I do the rifle squad, I can also do the bugle, and we also do the flag folding at funerals if needed. I would say roughly I do probably 150 a year. After you do an honor guard and people come up and shake your hand and say how thankful they are, it just makes me feel great. It makes everyone feel great. We're all happy to be there. They see us and say thank you. And that thank you means a lot.
In De Pere, Nate Stewart, Local 5 News.
Thanks, Nate. Over the weekend, Oshkosh West High School took time to recognize those in our community who gave their lives to our country.
The Veterans Honor Wall at the high school has more than 3,000 heroes' names on it. All of them graduated or attended Oshkosh or Oshkosh West High Schools.
This honor hall is a way for veterans to come together and talk about their experiences. A lot of the Vietnam and Korea vets never were recognized, and this gives them an opportunity to be recognized, and it's almost like a healing process.
The honor wall is at Oshkosh West High School, and anyone can come and visit.
2 leaders of the American Legion Riders want to honor veterans this holiday season by placing a wreath on each of their graves at the cemetery in King.
Our sister station in Wausau has more on why they are determined to reach their goal and cover every headstone.
When we're up on that hill at King Cemetery laying those wreaths, right across the street is our veterans' home. And there's veterans living in there who look over and see and think, I'm going to be remembered.
That is why Evelyn and Ray McSherry, part of the American Legion Riders, want to honor as many veterans' graves as they can with a ceremony on December 14th.
We were just thrilled that we were able to just go up and put a wreath on every single headstone up there.
To do it again this year, they need help. More donations to cover all 7,400 graves at the Central Wisconsin Veterans Memorial Cemetery.
The amount changes every year, at the cemetery because we are burying our veterans every day.
Gathering $15 every year for each new wreath is symbolic.
It's a live wreath, and their memory is alive yet.
It's part of Wreaths Across America, which holds wreath-laying ceremonies at the Arlington National Cemetery each December. The McSherrys got involved in 2010.
And we raised enough to lay 400 wreaths at King in 6 weeks.
As a veteran himself, Ray McSherry says,
"They gave for us, and we just want to remember them."
When someone lays a wreath,
we do tell them to step back and say the name because they don't want to be forgotten.
It reinstills in us every bit of pride that this country should give you. His truck.
And donations for those wreaths can be made until November 25th.
A local veteran has made it his mission to help disabled veterans in our area.
And a ruck march to help bring awareness to veterans who lost their life to suicide. That's coming up. Adrenaline and competition and teamwork, all things that John Winker strived for during his time with the Army National Guard.
But when an accident cut his service short, he wanted to find a hobby that would be similar to the military.
Local 5's Nate Stewart shows us why John wants other disabled veterans to get involved with motorsports.
I wanted to compete with people on a level playing field, and that was something that motorsport could offer.
The rev of an engine and a little bit of horsepower has allowed John Winker to cope with some physical and mental battles.
It's helped kind of pull me out of some dark times, and I want to make sure that that can be shared with other veterans that may be in a similar spot.
Joining the National Guard in Appleton in 2006, he would deploy to Iraq in 2009 when tragedy struck.
I got run over by a MRAP, an armored gun truck. They weigh about 14 tons, and it ended up riding up all the way up my left leg up onto my thigh before another soldier was able to get the vehicle to stop.
His leg was able to be salvaged, but his recovery would not be easy.
But the big thing with it was just the pain was just excruciating. You know, with this amount of pain, how am I going to be a father to, young children? It definitely put me into a pretty severe depression. When it came out that the doctors started recommending the amputation, at that time I was honestly ready for it. I was pretty much asking for it at that point. All right. So in 2013, I ended up having the amputation of my left leg below the knee.
His dream of making the military his career would come to an end as he was medically discharged in 2013.
Which was a little disheartening to have my career cut short in that manner. Used to do sports and running and so forth, and a lot of that stuff was either very difficult to do or almost impossible at the time. One of the things that I found that I was able to continue to do was still drive a car.
Making good out of a bad situation, John transitioned into civilian life by beginning an internship at Baycom. And then at the beginning of 2019, he co-founded Resilience Racing, a veteran-led race team that aims to help others like himself.
To really get vets involved, show other disabled vets that there is life after severe injuries, and I personally had seen what motorsports can do in terms of recovery and so forth, and just kind of that non-clinical therapy piece for veterans. And the thing that's awesome about racing is that you're able to take a driver with disabilities, stick them in a car, and they can race against an able-bodied driver.
And for those missing a limb like John, it requires personalized hand controls
that allow for gas, brake, clutch, shifting, all without having your hands leave the steering wheel.
Something that he hopes to raise more money for to help his team compete with all the others.
Just trying to build a little bit of a community here and get our mission out there to others.
In Green Bay, Nate Stewart, Local 5 News.
As always, if you'd like to nominate a hometown hero, write Nate at the email address you see there.
Well, coming up, how veterans in Brown County and throughout the state can receive the help they need.
And a ruck march raising awareness for veterans who lost their lives to suicide. Before we go to break, we'd like to share some photos of local veterans. Thank you for your service.
And a 2.0.
I plan on doing the 20. This will be my third year doing it.
I just got a new prosthetic socket. I just learned to walk again a year and a half ago. So I've worked myself up to the full 20, but today I'm just doing the 2. I've had too many friends of mine that I served with that I knew that were also in the military that have committed suicide. And so this really touches close to home with me.
A good buddy of mine named Matthew Zalapi, he got a DUI. And our unit told him he had to stay back and go through the court processes, and he couldn't deploy with us. 2 weeks later, he was found in his apartment. He hung himself.
20 veterans are completing suicide every day, so we're here to get that number down to 0.
Another buddy of mine I did 2 tours with, we went on our 4-day. Something happened, and he dove in the Cumberland River, found him 30 days later, ruled a suicide. So within 18 months, I lost 2 of my really good friends.
Even one life saved is huge. Obviously, we want to save everybody, and by God, we're trying.
When somebody commits suicide, you know, that pain for that person's gone, but that pain is magnified tenfold, if not 100-fold, for everybody else that was in that veteran's life, whether it be his family, his friends. They're all dealing with more pain than what he was going through.
And our ultimate goal is to raise awareness, get veterans the help that they need.
The 20-mile ruck represents the number of veterans who take their lives every day, as reported by the VA. Since 2013, the 4th HUA Wisconsin has raised over $250,000.
Well, we are joined now by Joe Aulick. He is the Director of Veteran Services for Brown County.
And we thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about Veteran Services of Brown County, what you offer.
Well, we're county veteran service officers. There's 72 of us in the state, and we also have tribal veteran service officers. A lot of people don't know that. There's 13 of those. So we have about 83 service officers throughout the state, county and tribal, that assist veterans and connect them to their benefits.
And Joe, who do you help? Is it all veterans? Anybody?
Anybody who served in the armed forces, we want to be speaking with them. If they haven't been to our office, they should be calling. If they've been to our office and haven't checked in for a while, they should be calling. Because benefits are constantly changing, and the VA is constantly adding benefits to the list.
You saw in the story that we just had about the suicide of veterans and what a terrible problem it is. What's the extent of the problem here in Brown County, and what services do you offer?
So the extent in Brown County, we'll lose about 5 to 6 veterans every year on average. This has been happening for the last 10 years. Statewide, there's about 13 veterans a month that take their lives, and that's been happening for the last 10 years. So we lost about 1,500 veterans. So not only it's a crisis nationally, it's a crisis in the state of Wisconsin, and that's where we're trying to get the word out. If we can connect our veterans to services and benefits, it improves the quality of their lives, it gives them compensation, disability compensation, and helps them navigate those services, and so that's why we're there.
Joe, there is no doubt a veteran watching right now.
Yes, no doubt.
Down in the dumps, maybe contemplating whatever. What do you say to him as far as getting some help? This is the person who thinks there's nothing left for me.
Right, and we're seeing it a lot in our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. I've been serving my fellow veterans for the last 20 years, and so the newer veteran, because of the multiple deployments and they're coming back, we have a smaller population of veterans in our population, so they feel very isolated and disconnected, and they've lost their comrades, they've lost their mission, and that's where, call our office, 920-448-4450, and if it's a crisis, we have, veterans crisis lines. They can Google that number if they need immediate service, right? But overall, give our office a call. We're there to connect them with their services, get them. We have counseling, we have programs, we have services. I brought my golden ticket with me today. We call it the golden ticket. It's 26 core services that we try to hook our veterans up with. And many people that get this in their hands, they learn about benefits they didn't know of. The statistics tell us over 50% of veterans are unaware of their benefits.
Oh my.
They're right, exactly. It's a shocker, and
Well,
there's a VA study for that. So
we thank you so much for what you do and
thank
for
you.
our veterans. Thank you. Joe Wallach, Director of Brown County Veteran Services. Thank you for joining
and
us.
as Joe was mentioning, we have some numbers up on the screen that we want to show you. We're going to be back right after this.
Ready, fire! Ready, fire! Freeze it! Armed!
And we thank you for watching this Local 5 Veterans Special.
Have a wonderful night and a happy Veterans Day.
This has been a special edition of Local 5 News at 6, a salute to veterans, honoring those who serve. This program was sponsored by Georgia Pacific, Holy Family Memorial Medical Center, Keller Incorporated, Kroll's West, Rennes Health and Rehab Center, R.R. Donnelly, Window World, Consolidated Construction, and WPS Health Insurance.